Hey internet friends, I've been holding off, waiting for the dust to settle, but I think it's finally time. Here's what the media won't tell you about Charlie Kirk and his enemies. On September 10th, 2025, 31-year-old Charlie Kirk's public execution was broadcast to the world. Charlie was a legendary debater who fought the subversive takeover of American college campuses through his organization, Turning Point USA, extending the microphone to anyone who wished to debate him. He was always willing to hear their side. Charlie Kirk wasn't a politician. He had no control over legislation or the economy. He was just a husband, a father, and a popular podcaster who was uniquely positioned to reach young minds. Charlie Kirk's murder has shaken America to the core. It just feels so deeply wrong. The official narrative is that of a lone gunman. What we've been told is that Charlie Kirk was shot and killed while speaking at a TPUSA event on the Utah Valley University campus on September 10th. And the 33-hour manhunt thereafter yielded one arrest. 22-year-old Utah native Tyler Robinson, who allegedly took his shot from a nearby rooftop, fleeing on foot and abandoning his weapon in the woods. Tyler's father, with the help of Tyler's youth minister, who just so happens to work for the U.S. Marshals, turned him in after seeing photos of him online and confronting him. Tyler had no priors and didn't even attend Utah Valley University, but a technical college. And while one side is trying to paint Tyler as a child of conservative religious upbringing, there's definitely been a push to paint Tyler himself as pro-Trump. Although the messages inscribed on his ammunition read, "Hey fascist, catch." And we all know that fascist is a leftist choice pejorative. It's also been reported that Tyler was radicalized online through Discord groups and Reddit and had recently become very political and lived with a trans roommate with whom he might have been in a romantic relationship. So now that we've got the official narrative laid out there, is there something more going on that we're not being told? Would the same government who constantly lied to you about COVID-19 lie to you about this incident? Just, please tell me if this series of events I'm about to present share a common thread. Leading up to his assassination, Charlie Kirk, a devout Christian Zionist and tower of the line for moderate conservative talking points, began to question the narrative on Israel and push for the release of the Epstein files. Even though Trump told everyone to drop it, remember? I'll roll some clips for you just to back up what's being stated and give you a better picture.
Have been pushing the exact kind of hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. Now, I don't like generalizations. Not every Jewish person believes that. But it is true the Anti-Defamation League was part and parcel with Black Lives Matter. It is true that some of the largest financiers of left-wing anti-white causes have been Jewish Americans. They went all in on woke, and it wasn't just ADL. It was some of the top Jewish organizations in the country. We have seen this with the recent retreat of Jewish donations that are no longer going to be administered to colleges, right? Mark Rowan, Leon Kopperman. Can we get that full list? It's very powerful. And Tucker Carlson mentions that Jewish Americans have primarily been financing cultural Marxist ideas. We said this, by the way, last week, and people came after us.
So he was an American, which leads basically three options: MI6, Saudi, or Mossad.
Yep.
Which one would you choose?
I guess Mossad, given his connection to Ghislaine Maxwell.
So what does that mean?
Well, it's possible that that's the reason everything's getting buried, that there is some treasure trove, and it's getting buried because...
How many people here believe that? Raise your hand. Okay, I'd say about half the hands think that it's being buried because of an Israeli thing.
My contention here is that some in the pro-Israel camp are so knee-jerk about calling you anti-Semitic or getting deeply offended if you say anything that doesn't align with their narrative, that it undermines their own cause. And I have to tell you, I find it very irritating because I do feel like some of us have earned the right to have some credibility on the subject of Israel and don't want to be called those names when we have some mild pushback.
The last 9 months, Israel was on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu was basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order?
InfoWars host Harrison Smith mentioned that one of Kirk's close friends said that Charlie feared for his life should he turn his back against Israel. I remember Harrison saying this several weeks ago and thinking it was mildly irresponsible for reporting on unsubstantiated rumors. But you know what? Maybe I was wrong. The day before his death, Charlie does a show with Ben Shapiro, and he starts asking uncomfortable questions about Israel.
Which is that Israel bombed Qatar, which houses a lot of Hamas officials. What happened here? And if I were to introduce just the skeptical question, will this potentially endanger America's own interests in the Middle East? So please, Ben, help me better understand the situation. A claim I receive often, and we're starting our campus tour tomorrow, is that Israel is committing genocide. How do you respond to that, Ben?
On the day of, witnesses at UVU reported a lack of security at the TPUSA event, saying no one was really checking tickets or anything. There was barely a barrier between Charlie and the audience. Literally moments before Charlie is shot, there's all this weird signaling with his security team. It's like baseball signaling. What were they trying to do? Get someone on first base? I don't understand. They seem really fidgety. And immediately the footage is spread across the internet as the event unfolds. I didn't even seek out the footage. It was just the zoomed in clip on my screen on Twitter. It was the first thing I saw when I opened Twitter, and it was very clear to me that Charlie wasn't going to make it to the next 30 seconds, but for whatever reason, Glenn Beck and everyone pretended like he might pull through for the next several hours. I know there was a lot of confusion, a lot of chaos. But by this point, they already had an older guy in custody who was acting crazy and claiming responsibility. This man's name is George Zinn. He's a crisis thespian who was witness to 9/11 and the Boston bombing. George, whether he meant to or not, he probably did, created a perfect diversion.
We see that plane go in and we just think, wow, and then I think it was a 9/12 or something like that that second plane hit that tower.
Was that you? We don't know if it's him or not.
In addition to the others in the audience who were celebrating and cheering after Charlie got shot, creating a perfect distraction for the actual perpetrator to get away. George was questioned and eventually released. He lives to see another crisis. Meanwhile, at an active crime scene, after Charlie has been carried away, you can see here that they're packing up their stuff and moving the bird's eye camera that was behind Charlie. Forgive me, is that how active crime scenes normally go when presumably the whole area is covered in blood? You just pack it all up, move out, boys. Investigators have yet to release that footage, by the way. And I know there will be people in the comments saying he was shot this way or by this person next to him or he was wearing this body armor or he wasn't wearing it and there was something weird about his ring. Guys, I'm not watching the slow-mo of it 500 times to analyze the footage. That sounds like a man's job. I've already seen too many people die on the internet this week between the poor Ukrainian girl getting stabbed in Charlotte. Besides, for me, there are too many eyewitnesses for the whole thing to be fake. Too many angles. But what I did notice was that Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, was the first one to comment. I believe he shared his condolences at precisely the same time as President Trump for this random podcast guy on the other side of the world. Somehow, Netanyahu is apprised of all the happenings before our own representatives. But I guess those folks were busy because 3 hours after Charlie was shot, it was reported that there was a vote to force the release of the Epstein files, and Senate Republicans voted against it. That wasn't really reported much while all of this was happening. It got hidden in the news cycle. Like the Pentagon announcing trillions of dollars missing before 9/11. Since then, Netanyahu has been on a media blitz defending Israel, saying they absolutely did not kill Charlie Kirk.
The radical Islamists and their union with the ultra-progressives to try to take down their enemies, whether it's President Trump, who's been almost assassinated twice, or, they try to kill me here too. But they got Charlie Kirk, and it's just heartbreaking.
While the manhunt went on for 33 hours, a narrative was already being crafted before they ever arrested a suspect. I noticed this narrative sweep across social media and was in particular perpetuated by Alex Jones that the shooter was trans. Not a giant leap in logic, actually, because the target was a Christian conservative white guy, and there have been so many shootings by trans individuals over the last few years. And the media tries to bury them that they were trans and had their brains fried by SSRIs, among other things, hormones too, and porn too. But unlike before, now there's a trans gun bill on the table. On the 4th of September, in response to the mass shooting in Minneapolis, the Trump administration announced they were considering a federal rule that would restrict gun ownership for the transgenders. So if you were wondering what scenario would be presented where they clamp down on the Second Amendment, well, they do it through a conservative president with the 2A MAGA crowd cheering it on. Hip, hip, hooray, the trannies don't have guns anymore. But then tomorrow they'll pass something that says if you question the government or if you're anti-Semitic, you can't own a gun either. And it'll just go from there. And what's crazy is the gun folks will have asked for it because aren't the trannies just so violent and volatile? They shouldn't have access to guns. So they made sure we knew the motive early. They made sure the narrative was planted before they even had the suspect. And guys, they managed to catch him in 33 hours after the assassination. And we all know on this channel that 33 is a gang number. We are all familiar with the numbers. We're all familiar with the gang signs, but we will not be schizoing out in this video. So this 22-year-old guy with no previous record who didn't attend this college but a tech school knew how to get on top of this roof, this one building where he wouldn't be seen and could escape. And then he manages to kill Charlie Kirk in one shot. He leaves behind these bullets with messages on them, so we know he's a libtard. He evades the police, and somehow there's decoys in the audience. What are the chances this guy acted alone? One day after Charlie's assassination, Jewish conservative podcaster Ben Shapiro announced he'd pick up the microphone where Charlie left off. Shapiro said, quote, "We're going to pick up that blood-stained microphone where Charlie left it," end quote, and continue debates and talks on college campuses across the country. Wow, we're really embracing each other, aren't we? Speaking of which, look at this AI photo of Trump and Charlie embracing that Trump put up on his Truth Social account on the 12th. Notice the flags. Who's Shlomo Perel? I think it's referring to this guy who evaded Nazi persecution by posing as an ethnic German and becoming a Hitler Youth member, and then he made a movie about it afterward. Gee golly gosh, isn't that weird? I don't really know what to say about it. Notice how this video isn't called I Know Everything, ha ha ha, you know nothing. It's called What the Media Won't Tell You. And I don't know, but I got a hunch that the government will tell us the truth in redacted files in 50 years. To get to the bottom of this, we could always ask who benefits. I think we could say that this event might have benefited many people. People who are happy that Charlie Kirk is dead because he represented their opposing views. Maybe it benefited people who want to distract from the continued call for the release of the Epstein files, given that Charlie was advocating for the release of them and also his death overshadowed the vote not to release them. It could also benefit whoever's trying to further the division in this country, triggering a wave of violence and chaos. It could also benefit people who want to take away our guns, people who want the ear of conservative college kids and don't want them questioning Israel. Now, does that mean I'm saying that 100% Tyler Robinson is a patsy and everything is fake and it's all Israel's fault? That's not really what I'm getting at. I'm saying multiple things can be true at the same time. The feds could have been blindsided and picked a patsy post-shooting. Tyler Robinson could have really been a radicalized kid who knew how to shoot a gun. His radicalization and vulnerability could have made him more susceptible to suggestion. Whose suggestion is the real question? If he actually did it, did he work alone? That one, I feel like I can answer myself. I'm going to go with 1,000% no. Lock it in. Finally, it's so funny to me, and not like ha-ha funny, that Charlie Kirk is being characterized as a radical and hateful and a fascist. He was definitely the nice one who would let you argue your side. Really and truly a moderate. But he had a crazy reach and an incredible influence. Since it was the anniversary of September 11th this week, I will say this. I remember watching the Twin Towers collapse along with World Trade Center 7, and everyone was genuinely shocked and horrified, and we came together. We united as a country, albeit to go liberate oil and poppy fields in the Middle East, but we came together as a country. Fast forward 2025, a day before the anniversary of September 11th, this happens. Absolutely the opposite effect. We've never been more divided. You've never seen so many masks slip all at once. People you know just cheering on the death of this guy. And the whataboutism needs to be studied. commenting, "What about Palestine?" when someone just died just makes people despise any Palestinian advocacy and activism. The what about people don't care about Charlie Kirk, and they also don't care about victims of school shootings. They don't care that he was a father, that his kids will never see him again. They were ready to assassinate Sydney Sweeney 2 weeks ago when she said she had good genes. All they care about is moral superiority. No one is cheering for a school shooting. I'm sorry, no one is cheering for a school shooting like these people cheered on Charlie Kirk's death. And these are the same people who dropped their puzzle when anyone said all lives matter to them circa 2020. So I will not be responding to any of those comments. If you only extend your empathy towards people who align with you in every single way, then your empathy is performative and you're a clown, honk honk. And that's what the media won't tell you about Charlie Kirk. What do you think, internet friends? You know, I always look forward to reading your comments. I know it's been a heavy week. How are we feeling? I am over here at the end of this video I have this overwhelming sense that something about this public execution, like obviously it was done intentionally to send a message, but it just shouldn't have happened. I really feel like obviously it shouldn't have happened, but it's almost like it wasn't supposed to happen. I don't know. Does anyone else feel the same way? All right, signing off here. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.